Hey everyone, sorry for the slightly late start. We had some slight Zoom issues, but we seem to be good to go. Yeah, Biggie, no, I am not still in Jamaica, however nice that might be. Actually, the weather here is pretty damn good, so I really can't complain.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is for now anyway, but we've got snow a little farther west that's going to bring us more, well, it'll bring me rain. You, it might bring snow.
the day after I got to Jamaica, it was 0 degrees here with I don't even know what the wind chill was. So it's good to see everyone. Manda, uh, Boba, Ken, Lord Forth, Moose, Cameron. Good to see you. All right, let's take this live. So I want to welcome everyone to Loremaster's Arcanum number 108. Uh, this is Laws and Magic. I hope you would all know me by now. I'm your host, Phantom NJ. John is currently on travel for business or something or other. I'm not entirely certain. So I will be taking the reins this evening. And I am joined by our very own Necromantic DM, or in Discord, Beowulf, occasionally also known as Manda's husband, Mike. Mike, how you doing this evening?
Oh, pretty good.
Good, great to have you on with me. So tonight's discussion is going to be laws and magic, and this is a topic that Mike, I believe you had come up with. So why don't you start us off a little bit? Discuss your thoughts and why what the topic of discussion is and where we want to go with this.
Well, in a lot of books, pre-published modules, and in a lot of world building I've seen, um, people set up laws for thievery and murder and, the general, consequences of doing that. But there's not a lot of thought put into the amount of magic that can be used to either commit crimes or solve them. And it's just something I don't think a lot of people think about. Someone commits a murder, not going to get away with it if the cleric comes over and goes, "Speak with dead, who did it?" They can go, "He did."
So it's kind of funny that you bring up the topic, the speak with dead. Oh, I can't remember where the trope started, um, but there was this was a topic of conversation somewhere, and the idea that the veteran players who were going to commit, if they were going to go all murder hobo, or really, or if a DM wanted to make sure that the players were not going to get a kind with that kind of thing, they cut out the tongues of their victims to prevent the speak with dead from working. I'm not entirely sure. I have to go back and look at the spell to see whether or not that should technically work, but it did strike me as an ingenious way to possibly subvert that and make things a little more difficult. Um, Obviously, there are further steps you can take, but those get a bit more expensive in terms of like resurrections and stuff. Hide the bodies. That's always a good one. Uh, when in doubt, make sure that there's nothing to find. If there's you know if you can't find the victim, is there really one? Patrick,
Yep,
good to
that
see you this evening.
yep,
So,
that's always.
hi, Mike.
Go ahead.
No,
Well, that's always an option, but you kind of have to consider if the king's parents were killed by a necromancer while they were traveling from town to town. There's a good chance they'd ban necromancy in the kingdom. Whereas, if there's a kingdom of vampires and Pathfinder 1, he actually has a kingdom setting module set in a kingdom like that, as do several others. something called Ravenloft comes to mind. Um, the spell Control Undead might be illegal.
This is certainly true, and I mean it's not unheard of for there to be strict magic controls or places where magic is outright banned. Actually, in the world of Greyhawk, I believe it's the Kingdom of Keeland. At one point, magic and I believe up until the start of the published timeline, where the published timeline ended and the D&D began, it was still magic and magic usage was still looked upon very suspiciously. If you remember, early editions of D&D, especially first edition D&D, barbarians couldn't touch magic at all. It was magic was completely out of the question for them. It was feared. You know, whether how interesting that made things, I'm not entirely certain, but it's the kind of thing where, yeah, the idea that magic is something to be feared and controlled is is something that's come up before. I don't know well it's ever been um, how well it's ever been handled in terms of just going to levels of descriptions of how what they use or what's allowed, what's not allowed in any of the publications. And if anyone has published sources that that from campaign settings that they've used where there were these kind of controls, please let us know in the chat.
Well,
I'm
no,
always happy.
we can go an easy one.
Okay.
Dragonland.
Okay. Yeah. No. That's a good one.
Dragonlance had the Towers of High Sorcery. Any wizard, once they reached third level, had to go to one of the towers to take a test that tested their morality, their magic using skill, um, a whole plethora of things. It was a separate adventure for the DM to run that was supposed to be customized for the character
Mm-hmm.
and determine what color robe they wear, and then they had to follow the rules, you know, for the order that they were then part of.
So at that point, yeah, it was the rules for the order. I can't remember, and I mean my it's been a long time since I've read Chronicles, Legends, or any of the other
They
novels.
were,
Uh,
basically, they were each of the robes, white, red, and
Red and
black, were
Black.
specialty mages
Mm-hmm.
that each had a limited subset of spellcasting ability.
Right. Now, what I don't remember though is, I mean, I know they were subject to the rules of the order because it was, the three robes, if I remember correctly, were for the three different moons.
Yep.
And what I don't remember though was outside of restrictions of their order, were there any other restrictions on magic in the world of Dragonlance?
Um, other than it was fairly rare, no, not really.
Okay.
On the other side, you have, if you were the Maestra campaign setting, which was used for when they redid the blue box for the basic set, they had
Mm-hmm.
Galantry, the City of Magic, which had a magic university and, you know, spell component vendors on every corner and magic item vendors. And it was, the rulers of the city were representatives from one representative from each of the schools of magic that also led the school.
So, man, if you could put up a poll, for all the DMs out there and GMs and whatever game. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's D&D or if you're running some other rule set or some other type of game. Um, yes or no? Do you have restriction? Legal restrictions, in-game legal restrictions on magic usage in your setting. Well, Amanda takes care of putting that poll up. It does bring to mind the question of, especially like in a city, how enforceable that might be. It brings to mind the old you see the old Western films or well, actually even New Western film, talking about the old West, where you head into one of the cities and you'd have the marshal demanding everyone hand in their guns while they're in the city limits, or at the very least keeping their making sure that their guns, are tied in their holsters, or making sure you never use it, otherwise strict penalties and such. Um, it's one of those things where how do you handle that, and how far can you actually go in terms of restricting magic usage, say in a large metropolis, whether it be the city of Greyhawk, the city of Waterdeep, you know Neverwinter, whatever location you'd like.
Well, I had homebrew setting that they actually had a magic quarter in the city. Two wizards
Mm-hmm.
got in a blew up a chunk of the city. So they walled it off, built towns, and said, "Okay, all you magic user types have to live here, or else, or else what? You see these walls? Yeah, there's a bunch of archers, and you see the walls over there? Yeah, there's more archers." But at the same time, it was free housing. There were taverns, shops, anything a mage would need for magic use, they could find there. Now, they weren't restricted going into other areas, but it kept the possibility of destruction into one area. There was also a sign that said, violators will be towed, TOAD.
Okay, I'm thinking. I'm thinking many archers, and I'm thinking wizards, and that's. I mean, I'm thinking the free housing might have had a might have had a better effect than the threat of archers. You get enough high power wizards, and I don't know how much of a concern regular archers are. They're gonna need something a bit more than that. If the wizards decide that they're going to revolt, but free housing,
But
it's a good way about it.
but realistically,
Mm-hmm.
unless they're getting locked in and said you can never come out, which they weren't,
Right.
it was just a way to keep
Sure.
possible living in one area. That's why there was a temple district that was walled in. So if two of the churches went toe to toe with each other, they could close the gates, wait for the gods to stop stomping on temples. We'll stay out here, so
Uh,
they could prevent the damage from flowing into other parts of the city.
I think about the potential for destruction, and it's an interesting thought where you have some settings where magic is ever present. Mages, or you got mages, sorcerers, warlocks, and such. Um, in older sessions, it may just be wizards and illusionists, or wizards of the various schools of magic specialists and such. Um, I think about things like warlocks, and I'm wondering how that translates, and some of the potential difficulties you have there. Mostly because a warlock, sort of like a cleric, is their powers are not from them studying. It's more of a patron who may not particularly care for the laws of the land. Um, I'm not sure. What do you think about that, and the kind of difficulty? And then you get the kind of issue where, well, what about like the clerics and druids and such? Is it all spellcasters, or is it just arcane spellcasters?
Arcane. There's a cleric district that has temples to the vast majority of gods, including the evil ones.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is the setting I built, and a lot of the clerics could stay there, or stay in other towns because the evil clerics were frowned upon. But most of the good ones, if they decide to go, I'm gonna instead of cure wounds, I'm gonna do harm and use it on this person, and their gods are gonna go, no, squish, or no, you can't do that.
Hmm.
Not with my power, you're not.
Okay. All right. I can see that. And again, it depends on that kind of thing where, depending on how you run your game, it's definitely a way to go. Um, hmm. The other consideration I have is for settings, and the one that I know best obviously is the world of Greyhawk, where you have the city of Greyhawk, where you literally have the seat of power of the some of the most powerful wizards in the land. In addition to his school of wizardry, um, and I I'm like trying to imagine how that would be implemented. It almost to the point where it feels like the wizards would more police themselves, because you're talking, especially some of the larger cities, you're potentially talking wizards who have, reality bending, um, we call it reality bending spell casting, level 18. Well, and I'm talking like AD&D, not even, not even 5e. Reality bending spell casting abilities. They can just warp things. Um, I think there comes a point where you're going to need some self regulation, and this is where, like in the Dragonlance world, the schools, the towers of high sorcery may or may not work to that extent, keeping their own members in line. Um, but in a setting where you have high end spellcasters in one place, I think there has to be either buy-in on the from the top spellcasters for any laws that are passed, or they need to basically do some self-policing, because they can just they could literally just take out anyone who gets in their way if they feel so inclined.
And agreed. And keep in mind, this was one city where that happened.
Mm-hmm.
But also in that same area, there was a library that was also a school where wizards could train and learn, that had a number of powerful casters there, because if you don't cause trouble, you can live there, you police yourself, you're good. We just don't want you accidentally blowing someone up over here. But
Okay.
a lot of it depends on, you know, first of all, your setting. In a high magic setting, there aren't going to be a lot of rules against magic because it's so common. But it's just something to think about with different kingdoms, and think for a minute, the enchantment line of spells, how much damage someone can do in a city with charm person and suggestion.
Sure. This is certainly true. Um, if we're going to hold that thought for a second, I noticed that Renrep. Yeah, no, this is not the charity drive. I didn't get a chance to rearrange some of the other graphics to put in the advertisement for the Mega Stream fundraiser. That well, let's talk about that for a second, because that is coming up this weekend. We are getting started. Actually, I think it is being kicked off on Thursday night, kind of unofficially on Lord Gazumba's channel. Uh, there's probably going to be an advertisement in the Discord by him for his stream tomorrow night. But the first official charity stream that I know of is going to be Phoenixy Wacky on Friday morning at I believe it's 8 a.m. Eastern. I will be streaming on my channel at 10 a.m. and we will be going through the weekend. There will be a Blue Box stream on Friday night. You should be seeing the advertisements in Discord. I don't think the ad's been going on Twitter, but it's definitely be advertised all over Instagram. So check that out if you haven't already. And there will be games going right through the weekend. Last year we raised 20,000. I believe it was $20,500 over the course of the weekend. We are looking. Our first goal is just to break that this year. See if we can beat the 20,500. We have already gotten, at last check, we were somewhere around $530 worth of donations. The Tiltify link is actually open, and I really should have had that on me, but I think I can take care of that. Hold on a second. It is for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. It is a cause near and dear to my heart. This is the third year that I've been here for it. This is the first year that I am getting the opportunity to run a game on my stream for it. So that is an honor for me. And where is the link? Here we go. Hold on. There's the Tiltify link for it. And, as I mentioned, we are up to $637 in donations. So that is pretty damn cool. For those of you who are, have either the ability to watch while you work or not working on Friday morning, and there's the man himself, Lord Gazumba. Jay, it's good to see you, sir. I just sent out the link for the Tiltify link. 10 a.m. Friday morning on my stream, I will be running a game. I am going to be having among the players I have is Dave from Guild Superior. Siglin is playing with me. One Red is playing, and Kurt is playing with me, as well as my friend Kevin from Kevin Games / Game Night Heroes. I've already promised that I haven't figured out what the number is going to be. I'm going to see what kind of donations we're getting during the stream, and at some point I'll pick a number where if we hit it, I promise you that I will TPK the party at the end at the very least. So, is it the equivalent of the DM taking bribes? You bet your ass off it is. It is taking bribes for charity. I have absolutely no shame about that. Those of you who saw the game that I ran on Blue Box last year for it know that I decided to wipe the party out with a white dragon at the very end, as I think we hit the $1,000 mark in the last 10 minutes. So that was a lot of fun. All right, Run. Yeah, I will let him. You'll send me cookies. Listen, Amanda, please send cookies, but I really could use, us raising funds for the fundraiser. All right, so let's get back to the topic at hand. So I guess the question I have for you, Mike, is, in terms of like setting laws for Magic, where do you draw the line? Is it you can't even cast cantrips while you're out of the area? Is it certain types of spells? Um, how or is it like codified which spells you're not allowed to cast outside of the the magic section of town?
Well, realistically, I mean, if a wizard's going to run around throwing fireballs, other than get a bunch of other people to help take them out, there's not a lot the guards can do. So a lot of it requires buy-in, like you said, buy-in on the behalf of, the government.
Sure.
You know, we don't, and if you're throwing fireball and you commit property damage, well, that's property damage. That falls under regular laws. Their goal is to keep it confined to one smaller area so they don't have to clean up as much.
Okay.
Uh, and this is just this city, and that's in a setting a city I built and the world I created. Um, and it's just something that a lot of resources don't really think about. I mean, you don't see it very often, and but how many kings are paranoid and part of their royal regalia is going to be a ring of mind shielding to protect them from, you know, charmed person.
Sure. And it goes to stand in a in a kingdom of any size, especially in a world with magic. They're going to have their own magical protections. As I said, ring of mind shielding, or a helm of mind shielding, or some other such device. Um, Possible magical dead zones set up. Um, yeah, and different ways to go about it. I guess the question wasn't so much what happens after they cast. For say your setting in particular, is the very act of casting any spell outside of that area, that arcane area that you have set up, illegal, or is it, or does there need to be, or does it need to be casting to the point of causing some kind of damage or harm?
Causing damage or harm.
Okay.
Just using magic. I mean, they're going to use light spells to light lanterns and stuff like that because the first level, the apprentice wizard that can cast a light cantrip can go light up streets in the richer areas of town enough for people to get home. So it's in their case it's trying to deal with a like we do here. People don't make laws unless something happens that causes them to feel that a law needs to be made.
So
And
it sounds to me that the setup is kind of, for most of the city, it's, cast but just do no harm. In the other, in the arcane section of the city, it, no, to put it sounds like, to go back to my earlier thing, it sounds like the kind of like the Wild West. Yeah, do what you want, just make sure you do it here.
but consider those 18 there's a couple of those 18th level mages that you were talking about that live here full time.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the 18th level transmuter goes, well, you're both toads. Cage them up. We'll put them in the pond over here until they learn their lesson.
Okay. So they
And
have
and
their
if
own kind of
listen,
magical tribunal then?
as they're picking them up, it's better me than the demi-lich necromancer who's also in residence today. Because then you'd be zombies sweeping the streets.
I'm just grasping the concept. Demi Lich Necromancer wandering around. Sounds like an interesting city you have there. So, chat. What do you think about this in terms of having the the arcane in their own area? Yay, nay. Um, Manny, you want to put up a poll? Have in a city should the arcane casters be uh in their own quarter or a section.
And again, that's how this city operates.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I've built other cities where one had a magic school. And the wizards are walking around wearing school robes and they're not confined to any particular area. But, at the same time, they don't want them, it'd be like at Hogwarts. You don't want kids running through the hallways throwing sparks at each other. This is something might, is in medieval times, something might catch on fire.
True, and I mean, even with the area walled off, that may not necessarily be enough to keep magic contained to the one section either. Is another consideration, which brings a separate question to my mind, kind of separate but kind of related, and that becomes what function should in terms of the like schools of wizardry that you have in larger cities or magical universities and such for the higher magic campaigns. You know, it, I don't know how many people are actually. Well, I mean, now that you have campaign settings or game things like Strixhaven and such, potentially there are. It brings up the question of magical ethics and how those are taught and whether or not they're taught and whether that's even a consideration. Because how do you handle ethics in when you're talking about powers that again can at higher level become reality warping? And apparently, chat wants our of the people who have responded in chat so far. They want the arcane casters to roam free. Uh,
All it is, and that's just a thinking point.
sure.
If you have a small town that's only there because it's sitting at a crossroads, they're not going to have the guards or high level wizard to enforce anything like that. However, if you have a decent sized town that's been attacked by three different necromancers with hordes of undead, there's a good chance they have a no necromancy policy.
I'm trying to imagine. I mean, obviously, I guess there is possible considerations or areas where they may just say they could find usage for them. I'm thinking necromancy is one of those things that kind of frowned upon, generally speaking, at least as specializing in. I mean, I realize that
Well,
there are spells that technically fall into necromancy that, but when you say straight up necromancer, most people kind of look at that side eyed.
you could take the option would be take the investigator background for fifth edition, and then do
Mm-hmm.
necromancy. You take investigation, take perception, and now you're basically a police detective going to crime scenes, interrogating the dead, cleaning up forensics, cleaning up bodies. You don't have to carry it; it can get up and move itself.
That would make for an interesting campaign. I'm not gonna lie. He put out that on the stream. I might watch that. Uh,
See,
you know,
CSI Undead, or
or
but you have
CSI, whatever the city or campaign setting is.
yeah.
I actually now that I think about it, I think it was Will Dvorak had a Greyhawk campaign. It wasn't based on necromancers, but they were they were actual investigators or city guards and such in actually might have even been in Rook Roost. I don't think it was Rook Roost though, but he was running a campaign where they were all investigators of some sort, but I don't think any of them were necromancers.
Hey Jay, I'm pretty sure I remember that the Holocaust publication. There's been a number of official D&D settings and related settings that have had cities run by necromancers and undead.
Alpha, City of Necromancers. Hmm. Was for third edition. Yep. Interesting. I'd have to take a peek at that because that that might be something worth picking up the PDF for, just for interesting uses of necromancers and things to consider. Well, I mean, you gotta leave the necromancers alone. They're just trying to raise a family in peace.
Well, actually, I forget the setting, but there's one where basically the necromancer's city is a tomb city. People bring their dead to be buried, and the necromancers are basically the morticians and care for the bodies and make sure no one else comes and tries to raise them.
Yes, Manda. Yes, I did use a dad joke. I'm allowed. You know, someone has to do it. Well, if I go to my corner, the stream kind of goes away. So let's not do that till later, huh? Um. I would love to hear from the chat your thoughts or anything that you've done in your campaigns with regards to laws and magic and laws specifically about magic usage and whether it's in your kingdoms, your cities, um, anything. Just if you got a story to tell or something that you'd like to share, please share it now. Uh, in the meantime, let's do this. Here at Blue Box, if you're here and you're watching and you're enjoying the stream, as we discuss another topic here on Loremaster's Arcanum and all the other streams that we have here, the Greyhawk Awakening streams on Tuesdays, the Tears of Erd and Fall of Red Dawn on Sundays, whatever the case may be. But you have not yet followed, or you have followed us, and for some reason, whatever the case may be, you have not yet subbed, or you have subbed, but lo and behold, your sub has expired and you have not yet resubbed. We have one question for you here at Blue Box. What are you
What are you
doing?
doing?
Give us a follow, give us a sub, or really just hang out, join the Discord. Lots of chat going on. We've got Friday Night Crusades going on most Fridays. So this Friday we are taking another week off because of the charity stream. So it'd be, again, we hope that you can join us for the various sessions. They're being advertised all over Twitter and Instagram. We raised $20,000 plus last year. We're looking to break that record this year. And there are some really fantastic prizes for those who are in the top set of donors for the stream. As a matter of fact, later we will be raiding into Lord Gazumba's stream when he goes live. He will probably talk again about the different prizes that will be given to the top donors. There's some really 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 cool stuff. I don't want to give anything away, mostly because he'll be actually showing them off as opposed to me just talking about them, which is always way cooler. So we hope we'll stick with us for through the end of the show and through the raid. And as we get into the weekend, listen, anything that you can donate, it doesn't matter. $1, $5, whatever you can do. Every dollar counts. Every dollar matters. This is one of those things where we're talking about kids receiving treatments and getting support for the families of those getting treatments. that they would not be able to get elsewhere. And it's so important. So if you can, please consider giving. Also, as Amanda is reminding me, coming up in 3 months, it is only 3 months from now, is Blue Box Con 3. Uh, as of right now, badge sales are closed. We have already come up on, I think we've got 54 badges sold, if I remember correctly, which is definitely a record. Um, yeah, yep, Taryn, you just made it in. Um, so in 3 months, I'm hoping to see a lot of you there. I know there are a lot of faces that I saw on the list who had not been there for either of the previous ones. It is going to be so much fun getting to see all of you there, and it's going to be a great weekend of gaming. We're doing 3 days of gaming this time instead of just two. For those of you who want, there is also the Ren Fair that is your option for the third day, whether you want to join us at the gaming store where we will be doing our third day, or going to the Nashville Ren Fair. It either way, it's a lot of fun. It's a great weekend. A lot of great people, great times. There's always so many pictures that come out of it, and for those of you who are not able to make it, we will miss you. We wish you could be there with us. However, we will do our best to stream everything and anything we can. There will be streamed games run from the same room that you see the Sunday stream. John's Tears of Air campaign is streamed in. There will be games streamed from there. I think the plan is to attempt to stream other stuff via Instagram. I'm not 100% clear on the plan on that. Amanda might be able to tell you more. But we will do as much as we can to make sure that anything that we can, share with you, anything we possibly can, we will. So it's a great weekend. That is, I believe that's the third weekend in May. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So those of you who are coming down for it, I can't wait to see y'all there. All right. So let's catch up with the chat for a second.
Kyhira made a comment. She's just finished up her the map of the continent, and thinking about laws for various places, with most being open to magic. That I'm not saying every town has to have rules against magic, but powerful enough rulers are going to have personal protections to keep them from getting charmed and to have that kind of thing happen to them. They'll have guards that they trust 100% with magical equipment or and ways to deal with it.
Sure. Obviously, the last thing you want is somebody messing with the mind of your rulers, or using magic to uh, basically, whether not really necessarily blackmail, but anything that they can do to exert their will on the rulers is via magic is going to be seen as a very, very bad thing. Um, Anyone else? And Kyra, thank you for sharing. Anyone else have any thoughts on laws and magic?
A good example, one thing I like to do in a lot of my cities anyway, is charm person. Charm person can break games, especially if the party goes crazy with it, or someone else does. So you make a law stating that if a person is charmed, the person who casts the spell, in a lot of the charm spell descriptions, the target knows they've been charmed and knows who's done it, which is the drawback for a lot of them. The caster is responsible for anything that person does or anything that happens to that person.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Obsidian wrist. Scott, I like that. I am the law. Powerful wizards. Probably. Uh, Vancouver by night. Good to see you. Oh, man. Uh, yeah, it's one of those things. I think with a lot of it, especially in depending on how prevalent magic is in your world, a lot of it comes down to common sense stuff. The idea that if you charm someone, you become responsible for anything they do while being charmed. That is. I like to say that should be common sense, but the thing about common sense is it rarely is common. Um, and the idea that magical damage, you're responsible for magical damage. Um, I'm not big on, and I know this is not what you had been describing, so don't take this is the wrong way. But I am not big on like strong anti-magic laws. I'm more of the do no harm. You're responsible for any damage you cause. Um, Incident and sometimes even incidental. It's the choice of, well, if you find yourself in a fight and you need to use magic. You need to be careful consideration of what type of magic you use, because people caught in the crossfire, who innocents caught in the crossfire, are still innocent. So, and it's not, unless you're uh part of the lawbringers in the town, you still need to Toriano. The fireball was not cast in the inn. I'd like to point that out. It was cast at the inn. Unless that wasn't what you were specifically referencing, but yeah, you do not cast fireballs in an inn. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Um, but I'm very big on the idea of you're responsible for the effects as opposed to the usage, because there in a fantasy world there are too many things that can cause harm. Magic is just one of them. Um, you have a world where you've got poisons, you've got various weapons, you have, depending on classes, special abilities. I mean, clerical magic can be abused every bit as much as arcane magic can. So it becomes a matter of making sure that you're not coming down just on a particular class. Um, and
Well,
arcane definitely
I
has
hear
a.
I hear once again, the main city where they're campaigning has a wizard on the city council that leads a separate council for wizards that promotes responsible spell use.
Mhm.
You know, that fits in. It's not you need to restrict magic and you need to punish magic users. It's you need to think about this kind of thing. Build it into the backstories of cities. Build it into how they rule. A lot of them are going to have the as long as you're not blowing up our city and you're using it on the orcs coming after us, you're good. And that if they can, they'll have a wizard as part of the council because they're highly intelligent in the first place, out of a requirement for being a wizard. Although a lot of them will try and get out of it because they don't want to be wasting their time.
I could also see the Wizards just basically packing up and leaving and saying, "Well, we'll go find, or we'll just go make our own space." And when you get attacked by the enemy magic users, oh, you're on your own. There's give and take. There's ramifications to how far you can go before they feel like they are being unduly punished compared to others who can do equal harm. All right. Let's see. Jay is not yet live, which is not entirely surprising. It is still a bit early.
And
Um,
Robert,
mhm.
I the point of the part of the reason I wanted to do this is just to have people thinking about it when they're building their games,
Sure.
building their world, because it's you don't want to be suddenly thinking about that when the party wizard uses still spell or the sorcerer uses still spell to cast charm person on the king. You don't want to be going, crap, what do I do? I didn't. And sometimes you can have it work. Smaller kingdom may not have the resources, but other times you might need to know know that okay, no, part of his royal regalia, his crown and his scepter, that's the rod of lordly might, and all this good stuff, includes a ring of mind shielding, or the crown's actually a helm of mind shielding, or something like that. It's just a little something else to think about when you're building to maybe add flavor to town.
I think about the wizard deciding to try to cast um, charm person on the king, and it kind of goes with the whole. For me personally, it falls under the question of the really terrible trope of the bard trying to seduce everything, including dragon, and saying, well, it might be successful, but success may not be what you think, may not mean what you think it means. Um, be careful. Be careful what you do. It may not work out the way that you want it. Um, and I mean, I'd really hope that if you've got a magic user who's coming in contact with a king, the DM has at least thought about, well, gotten an idea of what the player is like and what they might try to do and what the effects of that are, because that's a lot. I mean, if you got a player who's suddenly just trying to charm person on the ruler of the land, you there that's a game that is in a very very dangerous spot. Bill the Master Crafter, good evening, sir. Uh,
So, Bill, thank you for the resub.
yeah, thank you for the resub, and I'm pleased to report that John is not here to try to further convince you to move to Nashville, because obviously you're not going to leave Jersey for Tennessee, because why would anyone do that? Just say John left me in charge. I'm going heavy on the Jersey Strong. Yep, yep. All right. Let's see. Anyone else have any thoughts that they'd like to share on terms of laws and magic, and especially laws relating to magic in their worlds? Kahira has been some great thoughts. Thank you for sharing. How things work, and anti paladins are chaotic evil. Yes. Uh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Um, hmm. Apparently, everyone is deep in thought. All right, cool. Um, oh, let's break the magic. Use it. Use it there.
Oh, and keep in mind the other side is not you how laws are affecting magic, but how are the rulers using magic to enforce their laws? Because if you remember in the Dragonlance setting, there was this little thing called the Cataclysm that destroyed the country of Ishtar because they were using magic to. They were at the point where they were walking through town, mind reading people to see if they were having evil thoughts, to haul them out and throw them in prison.
That's a great question, man. What are some ways magic can be used positively in a city? Um, well, I guess the first thought is, yeah, yeah, the cataclysm is just a wee bit of a thing. The gods disappeared for I don't remember 100,000 thousands of years, hundreds of years, whatever it was.
It was long enough that no one remembered why
Uh,
no one remembered no one remembered Ishtar and what its status
mhm,
was before it was, had the asteroid dropped on it.
mhm. So as far as magic being used positively in the city, um, I mean, I guess in terms of you know divination spells could possibly be a useful thing. It can also be used by charlatans to rob people of their money. Uh, you know, yeah, absolutely. Create food and water wall in terms of times of struggle when there's, if there's areas of famine and such, disease outbreaks. Um,
Well,
you know,
pure, purify food and drink to go around to the
mm-hmm.
wells regularly to make sure they're not tainted.
Yeah, there's a lot of good usage. Um,
Lights, light spells to light city streets or continual flame.
Hello, prestidigitation. Sounds cleaning service. Cause so one wizard, the only spell that they have memorized is prestidigitation, and they just go to town on your house. Uh, all right, so it looks like Jay has gone live. We are so we're going to get the raid started once again, and I thank you everyone for joining us uh, you know this evening. Thank you, Mike, for joining me here and for bringing the topic and sharing how things work in the city that you had created. Um, but I want to one more time remind people that we do have the charity streams coming this weekend, and I know I've said it a few times already, but it's a really important charity. The Tiltify link, which I shared, is um, it is live. We have raised over $600 already, on our way to 20,500, which I believe is the goal. We want to get there, and again, every dollar counts. Um, Let me set up the raid. Uh, so hopefully, I will see you all on Friday morning on my channel. If not, hope to see you all Friday evening here at Blue Box, and I don't remember what time. Please check Instagram. It has the time listed for the stream on Friday night. Lots of great guests, and our very own Vivi will be playing on Friday night. So come and join the fun. 5 p.m. CT for Central Time for Friday night. Thank you, Amanda. So 6 p.m. Eastern here on Blue Box, and we are rating Lord Gazumba with 26 viewers. Good night, everyone.
A good night.